Kenny Flexen for Seconds Out. I'm delighted to invite you to the latest edition of DiBella's Digest. Lou DiBella, last week on vacation, cocktail in hand, now back home. I almost dread to ask, how's your week been?
Not as good as last week.
I think we could have predicted that.
I had my guy Eric Walker fought a pretty brave fight the other night against Matrimov. That was very entertaining. Yeah, I was proud of that effort against a guy that was supposed to be King Kong, and I thought he did really well. No, not much new. I mean, I'm sitting here reading Boxing Scene every day. All the machinations going on in the business right now. It's pretty strange. We'll see.
We're going to ask you about some of those machinations, I think. Starting with something we've discussed before, and that's the potential comeback of Oscar De La Hoya. It's something that seemed not entirely serious the first time it came around, just kind of a slow news day combined with De La Hoya's boredom. But now he's kind of doubled down and says he's training for it. He really intends to come back. Other fighters have started throwing their individual hats in the ring to be opposite him in what will surely make money.
Every single reigning world champion would beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Whether it's a 154-pound champion or a 60-pound champion or a 68-pound champion. I mean, Oscar's one of the greatest fighters I've ever seen. But he's 47 fucking years old. You know, and honestly, he was Shotsky at the end of his career. He wasn't the same guy. So the idea of coming back and talking about a real comeback, it just I don't like it for him. I don't like it for Sergio. I don't like it, you know how I feel about the Tyson thing. Look, as much as I'm blocked by Oscar, so I can't even see his tweets. He's blocked me for years. But
why is that? Do you know why? Do you know why he's blocked you?
I don't know, man. I have no idea. I really don't. But here's what I think. It's his life, similar to it's Sergio Martinez's life. It's Tyson's life. It's Roy Jones's life. It's his life, and he can do what he's going to be legally allowed to do by an athletic commission, and what the sport's going to let him do. That being said, I mean, there are fights he could have right now that I would actually think wouldn't be dangerous on their face. But when I start hearing people actually conjecture about Canelo Alvarez against Oscar, I mean, why don't you just have someone shoot him? You know, and make it easier. I mean, the idea of Oscar fighting a Canelo Alvarez right now is an absurdity. It's perverse. It's disgusting. It can't be allowed to happen. That's not going to happen. You know, I mean, who knows? Maravilla is coming back this weekend. Maybe they wind up fighting in the future. Maybe he fights Chavez Jr. in the future. I don't know. I don't love the idea of a comeback. He's entitled to do what he wants to do as his own man. You know, I'm not going to criticize these older guys, you know, for their desire to come back because, as we've discussed before, they identify themselves as fighters. That's what they are. That's what they know how to do. And I think every fighter, every athlete that had a tremendous career that walks away, they're pulled back, you know. But in boxing, it's a little different because guys are trying to knock your head off. So when you get older, it's not just your skills deteriorate or your reflexes erode or you're not what you used to be. It's you're in danger. And you also took Oscar was a fighter from the time he was a child, you know, until he was in his late 30s. And he took a lot of punishment over the years. You know, to come back now at 47 years old I don't like it. I don't like it. And I hope that reason will prevail. You know, I don't want to keep hearing people conjecturing about him fighting Keith Thurman or him fighting, crazy shit I've been reading. I mean, Canelo Alvarez. First of all, I can't imagine Oscar would be able to fight at less than 68 or 60 at this point anyway. But the idea of fighting a world-class 68 or 60, that's sort of preposterous to me.
How much of his purported desire to come back do you think is down to his own personal determination to relive past glories, and how much is down to Golden Boy not really having much going on at the moment and needing something to put on?
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and still believe it's mostly personal. I think that, you know, they're having issues. You know, Canelo's having some issues out there, but they still have Canelo. and they have some up-and-coming stars in Ryan Garcia and Virgil Ortiz, and they have a deal with DAZN. So as you know, they're not in a terrible position for a promotional company. So I'm believing that basically it's mostly his personal drive, his personal ego and desire to get back in there. I think it has less to do with his company being in dire straits. I think it has a lot more to do with just his own personal goals.
We recently saw a couple of news points regarding Canelo following in quick succession. Firstly, it was announced by the WBC that they were happy to sanction Canelo against Avni Yildirim, the long-time WBC #1 contender at 168 pounds for their vacant title, which in theory would give Canelo his long-awaited and legitimate 4-weight world championship claim. But a lot of people spoke out against it almost immediately, called it a mismatch. And this news story was followed a day or two later by DAZN saying, no, we wouldn't accept that. We wouldn't put that on our platform. A lot of respect for DAZN for kind of putting their marker in the sand and saying this isn't good enough, even though it's a world title fight.
You know, first of all, from the ratings organization standpoint, Canelo's an 800-pound gorilla economically. He's the biggest name in the sport. So I don't criticize the BC more than I criticize anybody else. They're all going to roll over for Canelo and make, and approve whatever Canelo wants because Canelo generates the money. And by the way, Yildirim's not any worse than a lot of the other guys, than other names I've heard, if they're looking at a diminished opponent. But from a DAZN standpoint, they need to do fights that mean something and resonate. And I don't think they can afford, I think it's really, really throwing good money after bad to spend tens of millions of dollars for a non-competitive fight that no one wants to see. And, I think that the guys that run DAZN right now are doing what they have to do to protect their bankroll. I think that they need Canelo in a meaningful fight. And I think also they're pissed off that they haven't already gotten a Triple G fight, which they thought they bargained for right in the beginning. Yeah. Now, obviously, their contract didn't cover them well enough. But I think they're doing the right thing by holding their ground at the moment. But at some point, you don't move ahead by continuing to fight with people. You move ahead by finding something of a common ground and figuring out a way to move forward. So I'm anticipating that they're going to figure out something and that Canelo will be back in the ring this fall on DAZN. I still, if I had to bet, think that Callum Smith's probably a leading candidate.
As we speak right now, we're still 2 days away from what in the UK is a box office event. It's on DAZN in the US, headlined by Dillian Whyte against Alexander Povetkin. When this video actually goes out, the fight may be closer. It may have already happened. So I'm not going to ask you for a prediction, but some new, well, not really news, but some developments happened this week with the WBC again, saying that whatever Tyson Fury does, whether his third fight with Wilder falls through, he wants a tune-up, allegedly. Well, not a tune-up, but he wants another fight if the Wilder fight doesn't happen. They've said he has to fight Dillian Whyte regardless, either instead of Wilder or directly after Wilder. And then Eddie Hearn started talking about the potential of the WBC to strip Fury if he doesn't meet that mandatory obligation. What do you make of all that? And does it, if he is stripped...
Okay, here's what I think. Fury's bigger than the fucking belts.
Yeah.
Okay? The belt doesn't mean shit. The fight people want to see the most is Fury against AJ, right now against AJ. There's also obviously the Deontay Wilder fight with Fury sitting out there. There's not a worldwide cry for Dillian Whyte. However, Dillian's been sitting there a long time and he's earned this opportunity. You know what? Sometimes there needs to be a stripping, maybe. I mean, if he's entitled to fight for a belt, but does it really hurt AJ so much? So he loses a belt that he maybe picks up. Fury maybe loses a belt that he picks up again or fights again for in the future. It doesn't surprise me that they have to do something to protect the interests of Dillian Whyte. And if they strip, they strip. It doesn't make Fury lesser. It doesn't diminish Fury as the best heavyweight on the planet.
Does it diminish the Joshua fight to an extent, though, in that it won't be an undisputed Tyson fight anymore?
I mean, maybe, but, look, honestly, if Fury, here's what I believe. If Fury and AJ could be made in the near future, they'll find a way to deal with Dillian White.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, but you know what? Fury and AJ is not happening right now with no crowds. Like we discussed this 6 months ago. I feel like Nostradamus because everything I predicted 6 months ago has pretty much come to fruition. Remember, I told you remember the press conferences about we're going to come back with the biggest and best fights, and I said, Danny, Eddie can
lower your expectations.
Lower your expectations. Eddie can say whatever he wants to, but that's not how he's coming back. I think that they'll figure out a way to deal with White, but if they were to strip, Dillian White's been sitting there a long, long time. And by the way, I have no interest in Povetkin. I just don't at this point. I mean, I don't really have a lot of interest in this fight. I do think Povetkin's a big, strong guy, so he poses a level of danger. And by the way, you also wonder for every one of these fights Dillian's fighting where he's not getting the carrot at the end of the stick. For every one of these fights that he's fighting, will there be that one night where he has an off night?
Yeah. Just
because it's hard to keep motivating. I don't think the off night's going to come against Povetkin. So if I think if this comes out after the fight, I'm expecting Dillian to win. Stranger things have happened than Povetkin winning, but I expect Dillian to win the fight. And he looks to be in good form from what I saw, pictures and stuff. He looks like he's in good shape.
I think I'll almost certainly put it out before the fight now. now you've kind of given a prediction. As much as I'd like to embarrass you if he pulls off the upset, I'm inclined to agree with you that he'll come through this test. All right, well, we hope for a better week for you next week. You're not going back on vacation, presumably, so...
No, you know what? I actually swear to God, I'm thinking about taking a couple of more days next week. I need to get away. I'm getting stir crazy.
You should.
But
I'm so much more relaxed.
Yeah, I was. Last week I was.
I mean, this is better for us, for viewers and stuff. But for your own health and well-being, I think it's a good idea to take some time.
I hope the next time we're talking, I'm back with a waterfront view.
And a rum punch in hand, yeah.
There we go. Good to talk to you, Dan. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.